Hey everyone, what's up? Welcome in. It's a live edition. Well, not live. It's live when we're recording this, but by the time that you see it, I don't know what your schedule's like. You could see it late tonight. You could see it as soon as we get done, as soon as I get through editing this. But basically, what we're trying to say is welcome to the NIT Championship game. My name is Jeremie Pop, and I'm back in, Tulsa, hanging out with the rest of the Golden Hurricane fans that were not fortunate enough to make the trip up to Indianapolis as the TU basketball team takes care of business last night against New Mexico. It was a bit dicey for a few moments, but overall, a really good game played by both teams in some facets last night, but ultimately Tulsa gets the win and ends up moving on. Ravin Ray is live in Indianapolis right now. Where are you at right now? So you've shifted venues. Hinkle was where the final 4 games were. Now you've moved over to where the Colts play. Is that correct?
I am in Lucas Oil Stadium right now. That is where
Okay.
the media availability is for all the teams for the Final Four, for Division 2 and 3 and the NIT. So that's where all the availabilities are leading up to the championship games. And then practice for Division 2, Division 3, and NIT is over at Gainbridge. So they do availability for about 15 minutes, and then you've got about 20 minutes to hop over to the next site to get practice.
How far is that from where you're at right now?
Um, about 8 blocks.
Okay, so it's still a good brisk walk, but it's
I
not
got a
too far
good
away.
sweat in on the way, and my watch asked me if I wanted to record my outdoor walk on the way.
Okay, that makes sense. I didn't know because the last time that I was in Indianapolis, but that place wasn't even built. We're talking old RCA Dome.
Really? Okay.
Last time that I was there or spent any significant amount of time there. And I didn't know if this was like Philly, where they're basically all the stadiums share a parking lot with each other. So at least it's somewhat close. All right, not to waste time because I know you've got to get to availability here in a bit. But you were there. I'll just start with one thing. Going in, I had a little bit of worry based off of how New Mexico had played through the course of the NIT. They averaged like 92 points. They were shooting a high percentage from the floor, and that concerned me with Tulsa being able to handle some of that, especially the times that we've seen New Mexico get hot from shooting threes. They did not shoot the 3 ball well at all, Captain Obvious, in the first half, which allowed Tulsa to build a little bit of space between them. But it was a very gritty New Mexico bunch, and we saw signs of that the entire night.
Yeah, the guy that they really were looking at was Bulyak and Rock, and how Tyler Behrend was going to be able to match up with that. I thought he did a great job. Oh my gosh, I thought he did a great job. And then also Jake Hall, the freshman, golly, he's a good player. I think he had 20 points in the
Yeah.
game and really got the thing started for them where they kind of kept themselves in it.
Yeah, Jake Hall, averaged like 16 points per game coming in, and he was phenomenal throughout the course of this NIT run. I knew that one, they were going to have to handle some of the perimeter shooting. They were also going to have to play a physical style against New Mexico, and you had several individuals that stepped up. But to me, Tulsa doesn't ultimately win this, and I'm glad that this question was asked. I think it was you that asked in the post game of the players, which is without Behrens and how he played, then to me, Tulsa doesn't win that game unless he's
Yeah.
an animal
The
on the
the
boards
second
the way
chance
that he
the second
was.
chance points and those boards that he had, that the 20 pounds they put on him in the summer showed in
Yeah.
that game. It showed that I don't think that the Tyler before the summer would have been able to size up against that Rock guy that's just 7'1". 7'1", Iowa State transfer. Huge. And then Bulyak being able to just shoot from anywhere. Like, you've got to be able to guard him out there and then still be, versatile enough to get him going into the paint.
Yeah, those offensive boards is huge. Coach be preaching about getting those extra possessions, fighting for extra possessions, and he took his matchup seriously. I feel like he's been doing that all NIT, the whole tournament, and he's just been a really big piece, and he's just been doing a really good job at staying consistent, and that just helps our team so much, and it's obviously noticeable. So,
Yeah, the offensive rebounds are a big spark for us, and I feel like without that, we can have it's a small boost, and at each rebound it matter, each possession matter. And Tyler, he plays so hard, it give us all the spark, and it helped the whole team out.
Yeah, and I think your point is dead on. Like all of the work during the summer that we saw for him to put on that extra amount of weight, like pays off at the time when they needed it the most, and they end up getting it done. There was a moment there, I think, to start the second half, Raven, there was one possession where I think he had 3 offensive boards just in a span of like 7 or 8 seconds off missed shots. Now, they still couldn't capitalize on it, which gave me a little bit of concern there, but still it's that overall just effort and muscle that he provided that really put them over the top.
Yeah, they also think about TU is how quickly they got out shooting the 3 in the first half. I was a little nervous, they make that first one and then they have 3 back-to-back ones that they just throw up, but I'm like, this team is one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the NCAA. It's like they're going to be able to make one at some point. And they did. I mean, guys like Ade, Popola, KJ Martin had 2 of them.
Yes.
I mean, a guy and Jalen the Wall, 10 points off the bench. He had a couple, and Miles Barnstable, of course, is going to have a 3-pointer in a game.
Yeah, Papula Lawal, the thing that I did appreciate about Tulsa was in the second half when they needed a bucket to maybe kind of stem the tide a little bit of what could be a potential New Mexico run. Like Tulsa always seemingly had an answer, and it was a big shot, and it typically came from those 2 individuals. And that's not throwing anything against Tylen Riley, who we saw come alive late in that game with a point flurry, but
just staying patient. If things ain't falling for me, I know my teammates are gonna things will fall for them too, and so is the bench guys. We have 2 starting 5, so I'm not really worried. The points are gonna come, the assists are gonna come. It's just we just keep playing in flow, and then I was just the guy with the ball making the shots at the end of the day.
Well, Tylen leads us by far in getting to the free throw line. He is our greatest threat attacking the basket. The way New Mexico's defense is structured is they're elite at protecting the paint. So he showed great discipline early, especially the way they were guarding him and the way that he was getting other guys involved. They gave him a couple mid-range jump shots, some of those that he's made at a pretty high rate, just couldn't get it falling tonight. But what was really good about and impressive for him is when they were in foul situations, he was ready to be fouled. He protected the basketball, and he got to the line and knocked him down.
They had an answer seemingly every time they needed one, Raven.
Yeah, they did. There was a couple backside ones I noticed, just a little bit of a defensive lapse. There was a couple of, there's a guy, I can't, the Tenet guy. He had back-to-back 3s, and one of them hit the backboard to go in. It literally went off, it banked off the glass. So I was like, okay, they're going to get things going here in a sec, and they did. And they just, at one point when it was 59 all, I was a little nervous.
Well, because Hall came to life in the second half, right? Like they did a great job on him in the first half, and then you have to expect a player of his caliber is going to show up in the second half, and he did. I think he scored 15 points in the second half, but again, it was those answers. They ended up holding New Mexico to their lowest field goal percentage of the season last night, to 32. The previous low was early in the year in a loss that they had, I think, when they shot 35%. So defensively, they really showed up last night when they needed it the most. Now, can they do that 2 games in a row? That's ultimately the big question here. But what were some of your other takeaways from what we saw last night?
Well, I think David Green's finally found his rhythm again, going from 5 points to 13, a team high 13 points. He had a couple of big time, I think he was the first bucket that they had outside of a 3-pointer in the first few minutes. And the other thing is they didn't get to the free throw line until 7 minutes to go in the game. And that's something that I'm used to seeing this team do. And for a second, it felt like they were a little off kilter. But I asked Coach Olin, the New Mexico head coach, I asked him, how are you going to, limit them? And that's what he emphasized in practice, was making sure they weren't going to get to the line. So they did that. And then some.
But I feel like the refs let them play, though, last night. Like
They
that was
did. They
that was a
did.
physical game because there was a point that I had and I thought about it and my brain got the best of my Twitter fingers. I almost had tweeted out SGA would have already shot 20 free throws by now. It's a joke. I'm just kidding. If there are any Thunder fans, I'm just kidding. But
They called
that's how I
Tylen
felt.
Riley the free throw merchant. So
Yeah, they let them play, which I think helped contribute to the lack of free throw shooting,
I
especially in the first half.
I was nervous with the fact that New Mexico had the depth that they had, the length that they had about foul trouble with Behrend and Ian Smichael, but it really didn't factor in that they had clean, sound defense. They had help when there was a lot of guys that stepped up, had those steals. I thought the defensive effort was great. Uh, Eric Conkle would say that they had a little bit of a low grade execution wise in the game when I
They
asked him to
did.
grade it. But overall, he thought that they played a pretty good game.
You know, the conversations in the huddle says a lot about this group, because there were some moments we had a frustrating stretch, and credit New Mexico, but we were turning the basketball over and just playing sloppy, but at the same time they were changing in a way and opening up some things that looked available and weren't. But I was really, really proud of the guys and their conversations because they want it so badly. This is one of the most competitive groups I've ever been around, but they've become very close. And the way that they were talking to one another was so solution driven. So I'm really proud. You know, that you have games that you shoot the basketball well, and we did it in moments. But this is the type of win, and this is the type of games now in April. You've got to be able to have that type of resiliency collectively to get these wins.
Well, they did play a good game, but he's 100% right. I was texting a buddy of mine in the middle of the game, and my text to him was, "There's just some weird things happening in this game, right? The ball that got loose that went to the other end of the floor, and you thought David Green's going to pick this up, and he's either going to throw it down or an easy layup, right? That ball ended
Not
up
a
going
fifth
out of
year.
bounds.
Not a fifth
Yes,
year. They can't
there
run like he used to.
there was a moment where a ball just kind of got away from them and went out of bounds on the side court, and New Mexico ball. Just little turnovers and weird things here. There was a moment there. Was it Papula that bent down to like tie his shoe, and they had the back cut and gave up the layup. There was just like little moments like that you were like, okay, these start to add up over a period of time. But to Conkle's point, though, fight through the adversity, which is something he
Yes.
said this entire NIT run.
So you mentioned how they let them play. Whenever Ade Popola and Tylen Riley came into post game, they had tape wrapped around them, and I said, "What happened?" He's like, "I got scratched. Like I'm bleeding everywhere." Like it just was
Yeah,
physical, gritty. And then Miles Barnstable too. Like a couple times, they had to stop the play at one point for him to like get his footing back because he was like just off, and then he was limping. Ade Popola was limping. There's just guys that just were getting beat up in that game.
I thought we might be in store for an epic Miles game with the way that he opened up shooting the three ball early on. That did cool off after that, but again, just another steady performance from him. And the thing that I really like about this version of this team, we talked about this in the previous pod about how much they get along and how much that they like each other. The comments about, hey man, I'm just happy we get to play one more game with this group of guys. Conkle saying, I get to coach this group of guys one more time. And they've been very appreciative of that. And they've also been appreciative, Raven, of kind of the history in living in the now moment of what this potentially means in terms of Tulsa basketball.
Yeah, they hit that 30 win mark, and they're 2 wins away. It won't happen, but they could be 1 win away from tying, that record set by Bill Self's team of 32 wins. But the fact to have 30 went from 13 to 30,
Yeah.
that flip, and only having 2 returners back this year is pretty. They found some gems in the portal, and you can't help but to think after this where they go from here and what gems they can find out of this as well. Again,
Mike, I have thought a lot about it actually. This is awesome, and I've told the guys this from right after we won our last game to advance to here. I've been giving them a count for probably 3 weeks about how many teams are playing, and us being one of them. I think it started out where we were one of 86, and then just how that keeps dropping, and how very selfishly I want to coach these guys as long as I possibly can. To do it in the place where the D2 and D3 championship are. I played Division III. We played in the national championship in Salem, Virginia. But for it all to be right here and us to be a part of it, it's never happened. And it is awesome to be a part of. I've been to, I can't tell you how many Final Fours, but this is my 4th time being in Indy, and it's one of the best. And I am so happy that these guys get to experience it. We want to win. We want to play at the highest level, but I want these guys to have great memories being a Tulsa basketball player. They'll never forget this. Yeah, not much reflection. I think that takes a little bit of time. You know, we've been in the moment. We're trying to own the moment as a staff and as a program. I do know this. This has been such an enjoyable group, and not just through the wins, but the valleys too, the adversity. And you know, we have a vision for what Tulsa basketball can be consistently. This is a great step. And, of course, our focus is getting treatment and getting some rest, figuring out who we play next, and trying to finish this season with a win, because very few teams get to do that. And that is the best. And I would love nothing more for this team, for our university, for our people back at home in Tulsa to experience it with us.
So I know we'll probably touch on this at some point in time in the next couple of days, but they got Auburn coming up. That's going to be a really, really big test from them. What's some of your initial thoughts on the Tigers?
Well, I was able to see a little bit of the game last night while I was there, and they got out quick. It was a little bit back and forth, but I mean, by halftime, you've got a double-digit lead. They're just, you think like a team like that's just going to come in like, it's, you know, we're here. But no, they took it serious. They're here to win. And at practice 2 days ago, we're going to see how practice looks today, but 2 days ago, Coach Burrell had them shoot 3-pointers the first several minutes of practice. So maybe they're emphasizing better shooting in this one. We'll see.
Well, it should be fun. I know you got the coaches coming up here in just a moment. Pay no attention to that voice in the background, by the way, that's bleeding over the top of us. You have one mission, and you know what your mission is. I need you to score an interview with Charles Barkley before you exit Indy. That is mission number 1. And mission number 2 is to not get in trouble by the NIT anymore.
Yes.
Little behind the scenes joke.
They said here's trouble today. So
yeah. How dare you interview Tubby Smith, Raven? You should know better than that for sure. All right.
And he remembered me from years ago.
Well, that's awesome. See, you're making an impact, and that's what matters most. It's this job is about connections, Raven, not necessarily about what you're providing in terms of content. All right, go have fun at the press conference, and we'll check in again with you soon. And want to thank everyone for tuning in. Hit that like and subscribe button. Let me try this again. Smash that like and subscribe button. Is that better from a podcasting perspective? Raven will have much, much more coverage coming up for you over the weekend. Newson6.com, on our social channels as well. And did I see the big man himself, John Holcomb, is headed up? We're going to have a live version of Tulsa basketball coverage on the Blitz on Sunday night. How about that? And of course, dose of Raven as well on the Sunday Night Blitz. We'll see you next time here on Oklahoma's Own Sports.
Thank you for watching this Oklahoma's Own digital studio stream. Stay with News on 6 online and on television anytime for the latest news, weather, and sports.